Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business intermediaries from across the country, and joining me on this segment is Steve Brodhead. He's the founder of the M&A Group. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. Good to be with you.
Steve, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically who are the types of clients that you specialize in working with and helping?
Well, we are industry agnostic, although, I tend to, from personal preference, like to stay away from retail in most cases because I like businesses that are predictable, repeatable, and growable, if you will, in the able language of buyers. And I think the risk profile in that arena is lower in B2B. I also think it affords owners the opportunity, if aggressive, to grow it and make multiples of what their investment is. And most people, when they buy a business, they're not buying it just to put it in neutral and ride it for a few years and sell it. Coming in the door, they all have anticipation of creating the next Microsoft. Now, that may get tempered by market situations and otherwise, but most coming in the door are aggressive and do want to do things, but they find out pretty quickly the prior owner's probably not a mental midget, and they considered many of the same things, yet chose the path that they did for good reason. Good to understand those things before you start out on your growth path, because I would presume that most have tried some of the things that are on your list of things to do, some of which succeeded, many of which failed. And there's a lot of learning to be gleaned from that before you start out on your unique path. So my recommendation to buyers is whatever you do, don't change anything in the first 12 months. Do it exactly as the previous owner did until you can understand the reasons why they do it that way, the other things that they've tried that they didn't like, and perhaps even understanding why they never tried what you're thinking of doing. And then once you've done your homework and you've assessed all the information and you're still committed to move in that direction, great. But have one last phone call with the person you brought the business from and ask them, I want to do X. What are your thoughts? And you'll get a whole lot of insight for very little cost, if any. And it could prevent you from wasting a lot of time, money, and energy when what you're considering is just not viable in this business at this point in time for whatever reason. Or it may be you're brilliant, you should do that. Can I buy back in?
We're coming out of a pandemic now. What's this been like for businesses? And, it's inspired people to sell their businesses, but at the same time, they wonder, is it a good time to sell? What's the market been like for you?
The market's pretty much been the same as it always is. There's a dearth of good businesses, and the majority of what's out there is a tough sell, not making any money, or not growing, or in decline, or you name the reason. But the high flyers that are making good money, that are highly desirable, are few and far between. What's made the market sustainable over the past few years predominantly is low interest rates. So just like the residential real estate market, low interest rates can cover up a lot of things. And I think we're about to see the bounce back on that as the Fed starts to tighten money and raise interest rates. The real estate market's going to pay a huge price in that. And those that are just teetering on the edge of solvency will find that They can't hang on, and others are going to look for ways to either restructure their debt or just get out while the getting's good. But the market is overdue. In the business market, when is the right time to sell is a question I always get asked. And my response is always the same. You can't time the market. The right time to sell is when you're ready. And the goal is get as much as you can given the current market circumstance. Once you've got your proceeds in hand, it's just like residential real estate, and the money's made on the buy, not on the sell. If you buy a business right, you can grow it right, and then you can pick the time to sell, and you get a second bite at that apple.
So, owners that don't really know where to start when it comes to selling a business, is there a big misconception out there? Do people think this is like real estate and they can just sell it themselves? What are the biggest myths or misconceptions around selling a business themselves? And the reason this is inspired is because a lot of folks don't even know that the services of a business intermediary exist. So I'd
Correct.
like you to shine a spotlight on that for us, if you would.
Well, I was looking at some old information yesterday. I haven't checked for recent validity, but most of these statistics hold up over time. The stat I saw that jumped out at me was 80% of businesses available for sale never sell. And that's pretty consistent with the number that I learned when I first got into the business. The great majority of businesses don't sell, and it's due to two things. Number one, they don't make any money. Why would I want to buy that? Because to do it, I've got to put a substantial amount of money down. I'm probably going to have to get an SBA loan. They're going to ask me to collateralize my house. My wife's not going to like that so much. So not sure I want to do that, but it still ties back to how much money does the business make? And sellers always expect more than their business is worth by some multiple. And it's amazing how bad it is. But, on the same line of thinking, buyers think they're going to be able to steal something too. And the truth in that matter is nobody ever steals a business. It just doesn't happen. The market knows what they're worth. We can all read the ads on the internet, what the ask is. Everybody presumes the ask's on the high side. And then you kind of look at things and go, still, if they're in the ballpark with this, is this something I'd like to take a run at? And the art in our business is knowing how to read those ads and whether it's even worth a phone call or an email response. Because I've been doing this long enough. We all know how the tricks are played in order to lure an unsuspecting buyer to respond to an ad, and there's nothing there. So, my job is to filter through all the nonsense. And what I do is I have my clients, I show them where to go to look. And then if they find something that looks interesting to them, don't call, don't respond, just copy and paste the link and send it to me. Let me look at it. If I agree with you, it's worth pursuing. Let me make the call for you. Because what will happen is if it's listed by a broker or someone that's reasonably educated in business valuation, I can find out a lot of the issues over the phone without having to send in a non-disclosure. It's kind of like, what is this legit, or are we going to find out that it's if we have a great year, these numbers may be close. And we're talking in March and it's on a calendar year fiscal. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. So, that's what we try to do. It's all about time. So we try to cut the waste of time out of the way and really deal with facts. And if financials are decent, you can get a long way. But most small businesses don't have good financial records. Many cases, the tax return and the financials look different.
Steve, what inspired you to become a business intermediary? Like, how did you get into this field? Take us back a little bit and tell us how you got started.
Trying to buy a business. I'd spent most of my career in the ad agency business, and I was burnt out. Went from being an account director and pitching business and running business and campaigns and clients and all that to managing a spreadsheet and firing people for a living. And, it was my wife one day, I was getting ready to go to work and I was grumbling about something. She goes, "Why do you do this?" I go, "What?" She goes, "You're miserable. Why do you keep doing this?" I go, "I'm not miserable. I love the ad business." She goes, "Yeah, you loved the ad business, but that's not what you're doing anymore. Look at yourself. You're not happy doing what you're doing. That's not what you're good at. And you haven't acknowledged it yet." She was right. Nothing worse than driving to work with an hour drive in traffic ahead of you. You just had an interaction with your lovely bride and she's out right about something. And you're just, now I'm doubly pissed because she hit the target right square in the middle and I never saw it coming. And it's just like, I got to do something about this. She's absolutely right. So, I thought about going out on my own, hanging up my own shingle, and it's just like, no, I don't want to do that. I made my clients a lot of money over the years. I'm going to find an opportunity that can leverage my abilities and go do it for myself. So that was the plan. And through an arduous process whereby we had an offer on the table for a period of time, and I just finally got tired of the seller playing games. I phoned their broker and I said, "Check to see if they're available for a call today. I'd like to have a conference call before end of day, and we're either going to agree to move forward or I'm done. But I'm not going to keep playing the games. This is ridiculous." So we had the call, and I ended up pulling the plug. Come to find out later, because, well, let's just say in unwinding my purchase offer, I had a conversation with their broker, and he was the one that suggested, really, you ought to get in on this side of the business. And he says, you'll see all sorts of businesses. You find the one you like and you buy it and it never hits the market. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Because I did find the process of how to value businesses and how the market valued it very interesting. And I was like a sponge, soaking it all up, reading books and everything else. And I'm thinking, I know more about this stuff than most of the intermediaries I run across. So that's what I did. Now, a year after that business, I walked on that business. It sold. It sold for 60 cents on the dollar from what I had on the table. Come to find out that the seller that I had been introduced to and was in conversations with was the owner, but her ex-husband was the voice in the background that kept derailing everything we agreed to. So a lot to be learned there. I'm pretty sure I heard from someone that the business went under within a couple of years.
Wow.
And part of it was they took their eye off the ball. They got so caught up in the process of trying to make the last dollar on everything in a sale, they stopped running the business and they ran it into the ground. Really,
you could have used your help, Steve. Hey, Steve, for folks listening that are considering selling their business and they really would like your help, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
My office line direct is area code 310-375-6960. Email address is sbrodhead, that's B-R-O-D, no A in broad, B-R-O-D-H-E-A-D, at tmag.us, Thomas Michael Andrew George.us.
Steve, this has been great. I really appreciate you spending the time and sharing with my audience today. I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Great. Mark, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
That was Steve Brodhead, founder of the M&A Group, and this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.